know that you hate Trump. That has been abundantly obvious.
Yes,
I actually
we do.
think that Trump out of office
For good reason.
was a good thing for your show because it allowed you to.
It's not about my show, Candace.
No.
That's insulting.
No.
Welcome back to Totally Based. I'm Joey Gaskin, and today we got to talk about Candace Owens going on Bill Maher's Club Random podcast. But before we do that, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you never miss out on new content from me. Now let's get to it. All right, guys. So Bill Maher has this new show called Club Random Podcast, and he recently invited Candace Owens on the show. Now, not too long ago, Candace received a suspension from YouTube, and so during that time, she just decided to fill her time by going on a bunch of different shows, and this is one show she decided to appear on. Now, she and Bill, they sat down and they talked about a bunch of different things. They talked about climate change. They talked about porn. They talked about racism. They even talked about Trump derangement syndrome, which apparently Bill has. And so what I would like to do today is just show you a highlight of this full interview. So instead of you sitting down through an hour and 30 minutes of content, you can actually just watch a few highlights and get an idea of what was said. So why don't we just do that? Let's just jump right in. So there were several hot takes from this interview, but one discussion that stood above them all was the topic of Donald Trump. Now, Bill clearly has an issue with TDS, and Candace is calling him out on it. She's just calling him soft. Take a look at this.
I mean, that's pretty amazing for a guy who's, probably going to be convicted for what he should be convicted for. And I'm sure we agree on this, Candace.
Definitely sure we agree on this.
About, trying to overthrow the government of the United States.
You're just not you're not a weak enough person to really I don't buy this. I think you dance this way because you think you have to placate.
Okay, first of all,
no chance.
Just to educate
that we almost lost America on January 6th. I just don't buy that you're that soft.
Yeah, I do. And just to educate you a little on this, I was saying this for 5 years when everyone was laughing at me for saying this, that Trump would never concede the election and he would never go away. I was all alone on a raft.
But I mean, you saw BLM riots, right?
Yeah.
The summer leading up to this, right? Where I lived in DC at this time where you couldn't go outside, cars were flipped, things were burned, people were boarding up their windows. Yeah. But you thought the end of democracy, you can say this meaningful human face, happened when people above the age of 65 stormed the Capitol. You thought that was the worst thing you've ever seen in American politics.
Well, I mean, what was the worst thing? That was a small part of a bigger picture. The worst thing was that finally we had a president after all this history that we've had. Nobody ever did this, not Al Gore and not Nixon, who probably didn't actually lose their elections. They allowed this peaceful transfer of power to happen. We finally had a guy who decided, of course, because he's insane, decided that no matter what happens, I won this election. There's only two things that could possibly happen. I win the election, or if I don't win the election, there must have been some cheating. It was looked at by his own people around him, including the Homeland Security Department, including the Director of National Intelligence, including every court, federal and state, including his own lawyers, his daughter, Bill Barr. Everybody told him, you lost this election. They looked at this over and over again. Even the Republican vote counters, like the one he called who said, find me 11,000 more votes. Even those people told him. So plainly, he did not accept losing the election, and then he tried to put in a bun. This is why he's on trial.
I'm just asking
it's not
if
for
you
lying.
Believe that day, as the media presented, we're talking about media hoaxes.
I give you my answer. It's not just that day, although that was part of the scheme. I mean, it's not like coincidence that they showed up on the very day that they were certifying the vote at the very place they were doing it to stop that from happening.
And
That's not a coincidence.
Did you have any questions about why the FBI hasn't been able to find, since we started with media hoaxes, do you think it's strange that they haven't been able to find who dropped off the pipe bombs the night before? Because I think that's the strangest piece.
What pipe bombs? Oh, this is some red herring bullshit.
No, it's not. No, not red herring. This is in the news. You can watch the CNN, MSNBC. Remember the night before on January 5th, there were pipe bombs that were set outside of the RNC and the DNC headquarters, right? And this was a part of the whole thing. That bombs were about to go off, but they were able to, get the bombs out. This is why, AOC said she had to fly for all this stuff. So I'm asking you, do you have more pressing questions about why they have not been able to find the person that dropped off those pipes?
I will have to look into that the way you'll have to look into the moon thing.
Okay.
Because
I think that's a very big piece for a lot of people of just understanding what actually happened on that day.
As I said before, I don't trust the media on anything because they never give you the full story. Yeah. So I will allow that there could be this element to the story that is part of the story. I don't think it will probably change my mind that Donald Trump would not concede an election. kept saying it was a fake and that he had all these reasons to believe that people had voted, like 10,000. He said to the Raffensperger on the call, Raffensperger actually corrected him and said, you claimed that there was 10,000 dead people who voted in Georgia. We looked and we looked and we looked. It was 2. That sums it all up. There was actually 2. Now, he's not on trial for lying. You're apparently allowed to lie to the American people about elections, even though nobody ever really did that before. But okay, he's on trial for breaking specific laws. Forgery.
Well, I mean,
forgery.
Before Stacey Abrams
He
contested
forged
her election and said that it was.
Well, that's.
So let's be.
Yes, but okay, you're right.
Yeah.
I concede.
Okay, Hillary Clinton took a very long time. I don't think she's
Hillary Clinton was there before the night was over in her purple suit conceding the election.
She didn't. She slept in. You're wrong.
No, I'm not
You're
wrong.
John Podesta came to the podium and said,
it was before dawn of the next day.
Okay, my point is that saying that there was
you
that
lost
there were
your point.
No, I didn't lose my point. My point is that
well,
you're saying
about Hillary you were. Hillary conceded as soon as it was obvious that she lost.
The thing that I'm trying to get you to say though, we know that you hate Trump. That has been abundantly obvious.
Yes,
I actually
we do.
think that Trump out of office
for good reason.
Was a good thing for your show because it allowed you to.
It's not about my show, Candace.
No,
that's insulting.
No.
That's insulting.
I'm saying because people that weren't watching your show that you didn't let me finish. You can't be told by a sentence I didn't finish.
No, but you keep
I was going to say
that
people that did not watch your show because there was so much dedication to talking about Trump during those years, then were switched onto your show because you moved on and you started talking about other topics that were crucial and I think brought in more of a conservative base.
Can we
That's
just
not insulting to say.
Yeah, it is. Can we just have this professional courtesy that I concede and I believe you believe everything you say.
Yeah.
Give me the same courtesy.
I said I believe you hate Trump. And
you're saying I'm doing things for ratings or to bring in a different
I
audience.
Bring up ratings. I actually believe that literally amongst my audiences, more conservatives started watching you post Trump.
Yes.
Myself included.
But that's a big.
That's not bad. I'm sorry I said you got a bigger audience now. My gosh, you're going to cry yourself to sleep. More people like me.
No. You ascribed a reason to it that's not true. I do have a bigger conservative audience and a less woke audience probably.
Yeah.
More people who are common sense centrist. Good, fine. I didn't do it for that reason.
I never said you did it for that reason.
I
did not imply that.
Okay, fine.
I didn't.
All
I genuinely meant what I said.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just say what I really think.
When Trump got out of office, you started focusing on different topics other than Trump. And people were able to see that.
Well, he wasn't president anymore, of course.
I'm not faulting you. I'm just making a comment that I think that your audience base has gotten a lot bigger since Trump left office. Some people might even take that as a compliment.
Different.
Crazy, but some people might take this as a compliment.
Thank you. Well, for that part, yeah.
Yeah, because you're talking about, like we just talked about, trans kids and bringing up geography and things. And I think that while Trump was in office, and this is not just your show, it was even my show. I think everything was about Trump. Everything was about Trump.
I agree.
Right? And it's never been that way for any other president. And not everything was about
because
Obama.
Other presidents weren't a nut like that.
We have definitely, I think, I believe that and we can disagree on this. I think that from the second he announced that he was coming down, there was a media obsession with taking him down like I've never seen. It actually woke me up. I was on the liberal side and it turned me into a conservative. It was vicious. It was nasty. It was calling him things that he wasn't.
You
didn't participate in that. But pretending that Trump was like a avowed racist that was trying to bring back the Klansmen was a little bit like dramatic,
But that happens with every president and everybody who gets that high up in the tree. When I don't know how far back it goes, probably to George Washington, when a person is the one who's going to be in power, the people who want to prevent that, who think oppositely of how he thinks or she thinks, yes, that's what they do. They try to destroy. They didn't try to destroy Obama.
Not in the way that they come on Trump. You had the Lisa Bloom period where you had 85 million women that came out of the woodwork with allegations. Where were you guys? He's been in the public sphere for the last 30 years. He's had shows. Where were you guys with your allegations before he announced running president? I mean, it was so obviously a ratchet job. And these things matter to you because it doesn't matter.
One of them's on tape.
It doesn't matter.
One of them's right from the horse's mouth saying, I grabbed pussy.
He didn't say I grabbed pussy.
He did!
He said he was talking about groupies. He said they will literally let you do anything, including grab them by the
He wasn't talking about groupies.
Yeah, he was.
He never said that word. He said when you're a star.
Yes.
That's quite a leap to say we're just talking about groupies. And by the way,
he didn't say I grabbed this woman by the P word. And I think that's a part of when I say there's so many media hoaxes. Just be honest.
He said you can grab him by the pussy. He said you can grab him by the pussy.
Yeah.
And you can do anything. You can grab
Yeah,
them
these
by
girls,
the
when they
pussy.
see a star, that's literally, by the way, just to be clear, that's a
But
fact.
just to be clear, you shouldn't do that,
But
right?
you shouldn't. Yes, but let's just be honest
Okay.
about what he said. This is locker room talk. Men
Right.
talking about, I hang out with a lot of athletes, about women that throw themselves on them simply because of who they are, and they'll let you do anything to them.
But
we do live in this
Just to put it,
economy of women who will quite literally let men, especially now with the birth of OnlyFans and TikTok and the rise of becoming a star, that if you are a star, they will let you do whatever they want. And then the media pretended he said, I personally went in and grabbed a woman by the P word. It's locker room talk. Is it crass? Yes. Do women also speak crass when men aren't looking? Yes. I'm very much, I'm not saying this is great speech, and I would love to hear if my husband was saying this about, but I'm just trying to be rational and not be like Me Too crazy and acknowledge that both men and women have locker room talk.
I have an important question. Where can I find these women?
All right, guys, so you saw that. Now, was it just me, or is Bill really a part of the hate factory? I mean, come on. Like, this guy definitely does not like Trump. But anyways, another discussion that I thought was really great was the topic of climate change. Now, Candace and Bill, again, they didn't see eye to eye on this. And Candace, she called a spade a spade. She just outright called it a hoax. Take a look at this.
I'm very, very competitive, so I feel like now I might just have 6 kids, just 7, just to beat them. It's really bad.
Definitely bad for the planet.
I know.
Let's not get into that right away. I mean,
Kids are bad for the planet.
well,
They're
everything's
pretty eco-friendly, actually. Adults are bad for the planet.
well. They're not eco-friendly in the sense that they're going to have kids, and you're just making more people who are using resources. People who argue about planet and. Elon Musk, I don't understand his whole thing about like, we should have more people. It's like, there's room. Of course there's room. It's not about room. It's about resources. We don't have the resources. We have the room. We just don't have, I read just the other day where what did they call it? The groundwater? We've already like sucked out all the groundwater that we can possibly use. There's just not enough rain falling for like all your kids. It's all about you, Candace.
Thank you. It's interesting because I've just kind of read this whole book debunking all of that, which I feel like in 2 years you're going to have a totally different perspective on all of that. Because
Well-
I've seen your growth and where you were a few years ago to where you are now.
No.
And, Elon Musk, I think, is probably pretty educated about the planet
Well,
resources. Do you think?
no.
No?
Not necessarily. Not if you, not either of you. If you think that we can somehow keep putting people on the planet, which has a finite amount of resources. Oh, look, there's my zucchini that I gave to. I was looking for that. Look at that thing.
Did you grow that?
I did, and I gave it to Vivek when he was here a couple of weeks
didn't
ago.
take it.
He didn't take it.
Yeah.
Unless he took it and they put another one just like it in there. But I don't think that. Let me see that. Hand me that thing. I don't want to
Did you
forget
actually
it.
grow this?
Yes.
It's actually a really big zucchini.
I told him, I said, you were probably at the Iowa State Fair.
Yeah.
And this is probably the kind of thing that you
I grow vegetables, and I just want to tell you, because
Right.
maybe he doesn't grow them. That's a very respectable zucchini.
Would you like it?
I actually would. I actually love zucchini. So
Maybe it'll remind you not to get pregnant
right,
again.
Vivek
Or now you're going to leave it there. It's going to wind up staying there again.
No, it won't. I won't leave it. I actually love
great.
zucchini.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, this is my favorite. I actually did cucumbers this year, and I got some pretty big cucumbers, but they're wretched to grow. They just kind of grow
It's
out.
almost a shame to have to cut into that, but you do.
Yeah, you do.
You gotta.
Yeah.
But don't you not believe like in the moon landing? So I'm supposed to believe you about climate.
I think it's so funny how people take. Well, first off, I know what I'm talking about with the climate stuff, so I'm just going to go ahead and promote.
Well,
a
you're
book
not
for
the
you to
only
read.
one.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you should probably realize,
No.
like, that there is, in the same way that there are narratives, I think you're now more awake to. The climate hoax is one that funds trillions of dollars, and
Okay.
we are not running out of space. You could fit the entire world if you stacked it like New York City in Dallas. So
Fit. I just said it's
you
not
said
about.
fit, but the point is that hurricanes are down. The whole idea that every time it rains, it's because
What I will
something
agree
bad
with-
is happening is like it's okay.
What I will agree with you on is this: the environmentalists do often lie because they have this idea. This issue is so important, and by the way, it is so important, that it's okay if we shade the truth to get people on our side, and I don't agree with that. I'm always
They lied every time.
Well, not every time.
What was your climate disaster growing up? Mine was global warming. They don't even say it anymore.
They don't say global warming
No,
anymore?
they don't. No, they say climate change. They went from global
Maybe
cooling.
not in your
they
bubble,
went
but
from-
in the world they
no,
do.
they don't. They went from global cooling to global warming.
They never were in global. No one was ever talking about. It was one. That's such a stupid talking point that you keep repeating. It's a zombie lie. It was one article in one magazine in one day, 1 week in Newsweek or something. Nobody was talking about global cooling. Yes, we understand that the planet is always changing. That's a different story.
No, there was a whole climate alarmism via the IPC for global cooling.
No, there wasn't.
Okay. There was.
All right, so you heard what they had to say about that. And just to give a few thoughts of my own on the topic, I think it's really a horrible thing that there are people who are discouraging people not to have kids based on climate change, which most of us have not really seen any full evidence of. Now, another thing I want to add to that too, there's people on the right who are afraid to even touch this topic because, again, there's not any real evidence that there is or that there isn't. And in my personal opinion, I feel like a good litmus here is examine history, read a book, and take a look around. What do you see? What do you feel? What do you know? I mean, I'm sorry. I just agree with Candace here. I think that it's definitely a hoax. Now, to move forward, one other thing that I thought was really great about this interview was the discussion on racism. Take a look at this video here.
What would your grandfather have said about the people who say, like, racism has never been worse?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I was kind of the first politically inclined person in my in my family, and it was interesting to kind of see how everyone reacted to it. And my grandfather, I cared very deeply about what my grandfather thought about me. Very deeply. I care very deeply about what my grandfather thinks about me. And he called me up one day, and I happened to have been invited to speak about the rise of white supremacy in front of Congress. I don't know if you've ever seen that clip of me.
Mm-hmm.
My granddad
I think
came
I
with
did,
me.
yes.
My granddad was sitting behind me. And when I did my opening statement, I said that part of the reason that I'm so compelled to dispel this narrative is because my grandfather grew up with real racism. My grandfather had the real Klansmen shooting inside of his home in Fayetteville, North Carolina when he was a boy. And how insulting for me to harness what he lived through.
Right.
I haven't lived through a day of that in my life.
Right.
Because I want clicks and views and for people to feel bad for me. That should make people sick when they do that, when they pretend.
And that's all I'm ever asking.
And my granddad, what's so crazy about it, I wrote about this in my book, and why I'm the way I am today, is that when my grandfather would go into these stories about the Klansmen who hated his dad, and I think it was because his dad was, the kind of person that might whistle at a white girl, you know what I mean? But anyways, when they hated his father, he'd go back in the story and he'd say, we'd run in the back of the house, me and the kids. My grandpa was 1 of 12, and we'd run under the bed.
1 of 12.
1 of 12, yeah. And then
you're carrying on the tradition now.
Exactly. My granddad would say, and then my daddy would grab the shotgun and speak back at them and shoot back at them boys. Like, so powerful.
Wow.
Not this, like,
yes.
oh my God, I looked at these colleges not accept. It's like, Black people have gotten weak. And it saddens me because we were funny, like the concept for me of comedians, Black people being able to turn pain into humor, funnier than everybody else, like, always from this position of strength. And I had so much pride in that growing up. I had pride in my grandfather, pride in Black America, and to see it all suddenly dissipate for me with the rise of the BLM narrative, this idea that, like, no matter what, whatever Bill Maher's thinking, he just sees me as, like, that's a horrible, toxic.
No.
I want to be able to make fun of you for your race. I want you to make fun of me. I want us to be able to talk stereotypes because they're real and they're funny.
And I've seen you, like, take people apart, like about Black dorms.
Yeah.
Black only dorms. I saw you with the guy, I forget who it was. But I mean, when you chop someone up, you do it like nobody's business. And again, when I'm agreeing with you, it's just such a pleasure to watch that. And that's all I'm ever asking and I've been, there are lots of idiot, like, commentators, like, Bill Maher's I'm not a racist. I just want the truth.
Yeah.
Just don't lie to me.
But don't you miss being able to make fun of each other in, like, a feel-good way? Go watch the old stand-up comedians. They would walk in, they'd be on stage, and they would just literally, you could not survive. You were Chinese, you're getting a joke. You're Black, you're getting a joke about and everyone is being offended, and everyone's laughing. And when they walk out, they're closer. Closer, because you need to have it taken out.
You do.
You're not
now, when you're walking on eggshells.
Yeah.
See, I can't make a joke because if it's taken the wrong way.
You gotta issue an apology. If it's taken, it's
and
like,
that way we don't get close.
Yeah, we never get closer. We never get closer. And I still keep that in my friendships. I make fun of my friends I'm like, oh, well, it's because you're black, or that because you're Spanish, oh, you're Jewish, and that is why we are so close, because we are able to. That is actually how people
and it's not
come
to say
together.
that racism still doesn't
Never going to
doesn't
go away.
exist.
There's always going to be stupid people.
Like there'll all be criminals.
Yes, exactly. The people are dumb. We get that.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
you're going to find these people.
Is it in a country that's now 39% non-white, and where most of the white people are not bigots anymore? They may not be as enlightened as you and your
Have you ever met a real racist? Like, that's what makes you laugh about. No, I'm serious, because everyone gets accused of racism. But have you ever met like a real what always gets missed here is, if you ever met a real racist, you wouldn't take a racist seriously because they're so stupid.
Now, after hearing that, I just have to say I love hearing people say the truth, because we all know it. We all know that before all this BLM, George Floyd stuff, racism was not a prevalent thing like this. You know, everybody's a racist these days, and I think it's really quite horrible. Anyway, guys, if you like this video, you like the content that I'm bringing to you, please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.